From Royal Communications Incorporated, good afternoon and welcome to King's Newsroom 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Today is Thursday, January 29, 2026, and I'm Shemadia presenting. And the Airlines Ministry of State accelerates leaked sonar investigation, sources named Ministry of Information and others in ongoing probe. Finance and Development Planning Minister blast Liberians for critiquing government's announced improvement of the economy. Minister Augustin Gaffron says the government would not buy physical bread butter for citizens to prove that it's working. And also in the news this afternoon, several persons affected by leprosy in prison in Banga and fined US $100 each over 250 acres of land dispute between Swakoko leprosy camp and an administrator of Clark's village. Away from home, Asher Speed, one of the world's most popular content creators, is set to receive a Ghanaian passport following his highly anticipated trip to the West African nation. Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program, following the steady buildup of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. These plus the news bulletin, voices of those making the news of our package. We'll take a short break to be right back. Welcome back at this juncture with John Sam Andrews with the news bulletin.
Investigation to establish how the president's full State of the Nation address got leaked ahead of the national occasion is said to be accelerating as highly placed sources hint King's 88.5 that the president is taking seriously the matter. According to our sources, a special team, including the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, National Security Agency, and Executive Protection Agency, have since been set up by the president to conduct investigation, which will involve the Ministry of Information, key individuals who were part of the speech preparation, and security agents and the presidential envoy. On Monday, the president's full message of the State of the Nation went viral on social media while he was still addressing the nation, a situation that has raised serious eyebrows about protocols around the presidency and questions about who leaked the documents. King's 88.5 sources further disclose that although President Buhari is intending to take strict action against anyone connected to the leaking of the document, either by suspension or dismissal, he is influenced by other top officials of government to deal with the situation in-house. There are major concerns mounting among citizens regarding the State of the Nation address leak, with many saying it has cast a dark cloud and openly explained how insecure the president may be, despite huge amounts being spent on well-kept security and protocols. Meanwhile, Presidential Press Secretary Kula Fofana has confirmed King's 88.5 sources account, stating that the Ministry of State has launched a rigorous probe into the matter. President Joseph Boakai State of the Nation address in less than 72 hours has generated intense criticism as compared to his 2025 and 2024 State of the Nation address, with several claims made by the president being strongly challenged by Liberians, including the president's own supporters, civil society organizations, and political parties, as well as individual politicians. Among several claims, the 81-year-old president address highlighted stabilized economy, improvement of key sectors, including agriculture, education, health, tourism, the rule of law, stating that the country is currently in a better state than it was previous years. Several civil society organizations, political parties, including former ruling party, the Congress for Democratic Change, the Alternative National Congress, Citizens Movement for Change, Liberia Alternative People's Party, among others, described as deception the president's claims of 70,000 job creation, steady growth, decline of inflation, stronger reserves, and macroeconomic stability and private sector growth. They also challenged the president's announced basic commodities, including rice, flour, and fuel price production. The 285 yellow procurement machines reported 64 public buses deployed across the country. 239,000 students benefiting from national school feeding programs, roads pavement, teachers and health workers' welfare improvement, among several others. Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Gafwan has blasted Liberians for criticizing the government's performance, and President Joseph Boakai announced improvement of the Liberian economy during his third State of the Nation address. During a media engagement in Monrovia Wednesday, Minister Gafwan, who bragged of the government's $1.2 billion national budget for 2026, ridiculously said, "Should we buy physical bread and butter and share it with citizens before you are convinced that the government is addressing the bread and butter issues?" In a more provoking remarks, the minister further noted that one of his considerations for this year will be to ask the president to create a ministry of bread and butter to directly purchase bread and butter for citizens on a daily basis. Commenting on the government's focus on infrastructure rather than immediate livelihood needs, Minister Augustine Gafwan said the opposition is only after criticizing and bent on realistic expectations. He noted that road construction and rehabilitation are directly linked to economic improvement, especially for farmers and small businesses. According to him, he will submit a supplementary budget this year that will show revenue performance. About 8 persons affected by leprosy based at Swakoko Leprosy Camp in Bon County have been sentenced at Banga Central Prison over land dispute. Their conviction was issued by Banga Magisterial Court Magistrate Jimmy Tupa after being charged with terroristic threats, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. The leprosy-affected persons who are jailed for 4 months are also ordered by the court to pay to government revenue $100 each before their release. According to reports, they were forwarded to court following an estimated 250 acres of land dispute between Swakoko Leprosy Camp and James Solonte, an administrator of the Clerks Village. The Minister of Information has openly acknowledged that the president provided inaccurate information to the public on roads pavement. During the State of the Nation address, President Walker claimed of paving more than 780 kilometers of roads across the country in 2025, but Information Minister Jerry Limick-Pia said the claims are untrue. Speaking during Mikiat press briefing Tuesday, the Information Minister disclosed that the president's statement was as the result of a misinterpretation of data submitted by the Ministry of Public Works. According to him, the data provided by the Ministry of Public Works was not accurately scrutinized before being included in the president's address. Minister Jerry Limick-Pia further stated that the government is taking steps to correct errors and ensure that the accurate information is communicated to the public. He noted that accountability rests with those involved in preparing the president's speech and not those who finalized it. Members of the National Teachers Association of Liberia have appealed to President Boakai to prevail on lawyers working in the executive branch of government to stop what they call encouraging the leadership of Mary Yeoman of the NTAL from disrespecting the Civil Law Court. Recently, the hearing officer at the Ministry of Labor, the Civil Law Court, and Magisterial Court all found the Mary Yeoman leadership guilty in the case involving National Teachers Association of Liberia leadership and the majority bloc of the National Executive Committee of the National Teachers Association. Several members of the Timber Workers Union of Liberia have threatened to stage a protest at the home of President Joseph Boakai on Thursday. According to the group, the protest is intended to inform the president to ensure the Ministry of Finance does not pay the 7.1 million United States dollars owed government to any of the arrivals, including United Workers of Liberia and the Timber Workers of Liberia. For some time now, the Timber Workers Union of Liberia and the United Workers of Liberia and the Timber Workers Union of Liberia have been in confusion on who the Liberian government to pay the 7.1 million United States dollars. Speaking during a mass meeting of members, the chairman of the Timber Workers Union of Liberia, John Banama, called on members of the union to converge at the home of President Boakai to stop the Ministry of Finance from paying any amount to Michael Blama, stating he does not have the right to receive money on behalf of the timber workers in Liberia. According to Banama, the workers want President Boakai to instruct the Ministry of Finance to record the 500,000 United States dollars recently given on behalf of the timber workers. In reaction, the Secretary General of the United Workers United Workers of Liberia, Michael Blaman, called on the Liberia National Police to arrest Blaman if he leads any group of people to the home of the president to protest. Speaking during a separate meeting with various representatives of the 27 former logging companies in Monrovia, Blaman confirmed receiving 500,000 United States dollars from the Ministry of Finance and cautioned timber workers not to form part of any protest at the home of the president on Thursday. The Association of Students with Disabilities at the University of Liberia has applauded the UL administration for what it terms successful conduct of the recent entrance examination. The president of the association, Perkins Boy, during a press conference Wednesday, announced that for the first time, 4 deaf students passed the entrance exam, terming it a major step toward inclusive higher education. The association, through its president, also raised concern over what it described as unfair treatment against a physically challenged man named Wanda Dablo, whom it said was a candidate of the recent entrance exam. The group of disabled university students claimed Dablo was not given an official answer sheet during the exam, but was later marked as having wrongly shaded his answers, a situation they detest. At the same time, the University of Liberia Student Association of Students with Disabilities called on the university to urgently review Dablo's results and establish clear accommodation procedures for students with disabilities. And the Liberian National Police has launched a manhunt for a man identified as Edward Mulba in connection with the alleged murder of his girlfriend. According to reports, the incident occurred on Sunday, January 25th in the Soul Clinic community, where the victim, identified as Rachel Carter, was allegedly murdered by the suspect. The incident has generated widespread public concern, with many citizens alarming over what they describe as rise in domestic violence across the country. In a statement issued Wednesday, the Liberia National Police confirmed the incident and disclosed that the suspect fled the scene following the alleged act. The police authorities are urging members of the public to provide any information that could lead to the suspect's arrest, emphasizing the importance of community cooperation in the ongoing investigation.
Sam Andrews with the news bulletin. The news bulletin is a regular feature on King's Newsroom. A reminder, you're listening to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Stories we follow in this afternoon. Ministry of State accelerates leaked sonar investigation. Sources named Ministry of Information and others in ongoing probe. Finance and Development Planning Minister blasts Liberians for critiquing government's announced improvement of the economy. Minister Augustin Gafuan says the government will not buy physical bread and butter for citizens to prove it's working. And also in the news this afternoon, several persons affected by leprosy imprisoned in Banga and fined $100 each over 250 acres of land dispute between Swakoko leprosy camp and an administrator of Clark's village. Away from home, Ashos P, one of the world's most popular content creators, is set to receive a Ghanaian passport following his highly anticipated trip to the West African nation. Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program following the steady buildup of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. We'll take a break to be back with voices of the newsmakers. Welcome back and thanks for being there. Investigation to establish how the president's full State of the Nation address got leaked ahead of the national occasion is said to be accelerating as highly placed sources hint King's FM that the president is taking seriously the matter. According to our sources, a special team, including the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, National Security Agency, and Executive Protection Service, has been set up by the president to conduct the investigation, which will involve the Ministry of Information, key individuals who were part of the speech preparation, and security agents in the presidential envoy. On Monday, the president's full message of the State of the Nation went viral on social media while he was still addressing the nation, a situation that has raised serious eyebrows about protocols around the presidency and questions about the or who have leaked the documents. Meanwhile, Presidential Press Secretary Kula Fofanan has confirmed our sources' account, stating that the Ministry of State has launched a rigorous probe in the matter.
So we currently, I can verify that we've launched investigation on that, and the Ministry of State will do all she can to really get the source. But I can say what was delivered, based on what we've seen so far from our preliminary investigation, what was delivered is not the same version as what is being shown or what we saw on the social media. So it's a different. We're investigating because that version probably was it was like maybe some form of draft or so, because we've seen so far from our preliminary investigation, we've seen that it's very different from what we published, because we published we did the printing of the speech booklet that we distribute to guests and people, and then we also have the team doing the regular stuff. So it's a different version if you see content, because the content, like I said, it could be what it looked like a form of a draft, but it's not a final, regardless of whatever the context is. The fact that it's a decision, once the Ministry of State makes that decision, we'll definitely go by that.
Presidential Press Secretary Kula Fofana. Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustin Gafuan has blasted Liberians for criticizing the government's performance and President Boakai's announced improvement of the Liberian economy during his third State of the Nation address. During a media engagement in Monrovia Wednesday, Minister Gafuan, who bragged of the government's 1.2 billion national budget for 2026, ridiculously said, "Should we buy physical bread and butter and share it with citizens before you are convinced that the government is addressing bread and butter issues?" In yet more provoking remarks, the finance minister further noted that one of his considerations for this year will be to ask the president to create a bread and butter ministry to directly purchase bread and butter for citizens on a daily basis. We sincerely apologize for bringing you that except in our subsequent newscast. About 8 persons affected by leprosy based at the Swakoko leprosy camp in Brom County have been sentenced at the Banga Central Prison over land dispute. Their conviction was issued by the Banga Ministerial Court Magistrate Jimin Tokpa after being charged with terroristic threat, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. The leprosy affected Persons who are jailed for 4 months are also ordered by the court to pay the government revenue $100 each before their release. However, the chief or town chief of the Swakoko leprosy camp, John Yapawolo, told reporters that solitary party to the disputed land planted a signboard overnight on a land the camp claims as part of their 1,500 acres, resulting to the leprosy affected individuals' action.
The chairman of the Timber Worker Union
We'll bring you that except in our subsequent newscast. We apologize once again. The Ministry of Information has openly acknowledged that the president provided inaccurate information to the public on roads pavement. During the Sonan, President Joseph Boakai claimed of paving more than 780 kilometers of roads across the country in 2025. But Information Minister Joe Lemekpia said the claims are untrue. Speaking during MICA press briefing Tuesday, the Information Minister disclosed that the president's statement was at the result of a misinterpretation of data submitted by the Ministry of Public Works.
We would like to start our comment on the annual message from a point that was made by the president during the delivery. And I'd like to quote that point before I say what I said. In the message, as it was written and read by the president, it says, the speaker and members of the legislature, nearly 3 years ago, I showed the nation that roads be our focus, not as a slogan, but rather a commitment in connecting communities with opportunity. And went further to say, in furtherance of this commitment, we focused on restoring key corridors and expanding secondary road. We increased Liberia's paved road from around 12% to at least 20% and maintain more than 70 kilometers of major routes. Unquote. This portion of the message is in honest contrary to the submission of the Ministry of Public Works. Here is what the Ministry of Public Works submitted. And whatever that information was, those developing the speech, those finalizing the speech, do not fall short of taking full responsibility if they make error. And as a responsible government, we admit that they did a misquotation far away from what the Ministry of Public Works submitted. And I think as of yesterday, they made the necessary corrections. So if you went to the Executive Mansion website, for example, you will find the actual submission that was made by the Ministry of Public Works, which I'm not able to read.
Information Minister Joe Lemekpia. Back to this development, about 8 persons affected by leprosy based at the Swakoko leprosy camp in Brom County have been sentenced at the Banga Central Prison over land dispute. Their conviction was issued by the Banga Magisterial Court Magistrate Jimmy Tokba after being charged with terroristic threats, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. The leprosy affected persons who are jailed for 4 months are also ordered by the court to pay to government revenue $100 each before their release. According to reports, they were forwarded to court following an estimated 250 acres of land dispute between the Swakoko leprosy camp and James Sonote, an administrator of the Clark's village.
After applying the sample one night, then the labor saw it in the labor king farm, so they saw the sample, so the Hakan, the ghetto girl, they said we had never seen somewhere before, so they take out that sample, they gave it to the commissioner. So he brought a complaint here that the labor can case in the bureau of classes, or also the one they take a sample. So after the burden, after the judgment, the people agree that they take out the sample because so the sample was planted in the night and there was nobody there. So the how can they take it, send the government put in there, they take it to the government. So after taking it, the one told the judge said they should put in jail for 4 more each. Before you release them, you should pay $100 each. So because when I see my people when they were coming out almost 30 years, because the people have stayed already, then you coming into jail. So it was not fine with me, so the how can I start calling for the standard government to come in and so that I'm calling the standard government, meaning let it bring the deal, or if they had a deal, let it bring the deal, if you had a deal, let it bring the deal, let it kill the rest.
Mommy calling. Now one man they call him Jeans London, and he didn't want to go here. because instead in plain example on our land. When there, we take the sample from there because in plain example one there, and we now know area for him. So we take it, we carry it to the then and the commissioner area. We lay there. We say we bring it here and anybody know that for them, then they call up. For him move from there now, you go to my Australia. If we joy, we say that we don't want to the sample or they should get all in cheap.
The reason I hear that because Lord is here for the school here for Sambo Bele. Because the Sambo go see on our sugar be fun. So that be able to royal care to the commissioner office. So that be the mess who here. I visited we ever to get to the prison.
Members of the National Teachers Association of Liberia have appealed to President Joseph Boakai to prevail on lawyers working in the executive branch of government to stop what they call encouraging the leadership of Mary Yoma of the NTAL from disrespecting the civil law code. Recently, the hearing officer at the Ministry of Labor, the Civil Law Code, and Magisterial Code of on the Mary Yoma leadership guilty in the case involving the NTAL leadership and the majority bloc of the National Executive Committee of the institution. Speaking during the mass meeting held in Painesville on Wednesday, the teachers representing teachers from rural Liberia, one Councillor Murphy Cannon, the Deputy Director General at the National Social Security and Welfare Corporation, and his colleague from Monserrado County Attorney Office against disrespecting the ruling of the court.
IMA teachers assigned at the Public School in Lofa County. On behalf of the teachers of Lofa County, I want to use this time to thank our uncle, His Excellency President Joseph Yima Boakai, for the Murphy Kenneth and his helper, Attorney Marcus Polly Dyke, want to cause confusion at the NTAL. They are the cause of Mrs. Mary Yima Yuri Mumba was respectful to the civil law code and 3 assigned judges.
My name is Maima D. Kamara. I am a female teacher assigned at the Petertown Public School in Margibi County. I want to use this time to appeal to our father, His Excellency President Joseph Numa Boakai, to prevail on Councillor Murphy Kane and his assistant, Anthony Michael Colley JK, to stop inciting teachers to disobey the code. And I also want to use this time to call on our female colleague, Mrs. Mary W. Moluba Newman, the president of the NTAL, not to allow herself to be misled by these 2 lawyers in disobeying the code.
I'm teacher James S.K. Miller, assigned to the Nathaniel Vani Massaquoi High School in Bangabong County and member of the National Executive Committee. I'm also National Vice President of the National Teacher Association for North Central Region.
Your decisions to declare and uphold the rights of the 2018 to 2022 National Executive Committee of the National Teacher Association has saved our organization from local Councillor Murphy and Anthony Michael. Your drama quick has now been closed.
A reminder, you're listening to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Stories we follow in this afternoon: Ministry of State accelerates lead SONA investigation. Sources named Ministry of Information and others in ongoing probe. Finance and Development Planning Minister blasts Liberians for critiquing government's announced improvement of the economy. Minister Augustin Gafuan says the government will not buy physical bread and butter for citizens to prove the government is working. In the news this afternoon, several persons affected by leprosy in prison in Banga and fined $190 each over 250 acres of land dispute between Swakoko leprosy camp and an administrator of Clark's village. Away from home, Ashos P, one of the world's most popular content creators, is set to receive a Ghanaian passport following his highly anticipated trip to the West African nation. Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program following the steady build-up of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. We'll take another break to be back with more voices. Welcome back and thanks for being there. Several members of the Timor Workers Union of Liberia have threatened to stage a protest at the home of President Joseph Boakai on today. According to the group, the protesters intended to inform the president to ensure the Ministry of Finance does not pay the $7.1 million owned by government to any of their rivals, including the United Workers of Liberia and the Timor Workers of Liberia. Speaking during a mass meeting, the chairman of the Timor Workers Union of Liberia, John Bannerman, called on members of the union to encourage or converge at the home of the president to stop the finance ministry from giving money to Michael Blama.
The chairman of the Timor Workers Union, I am saying we are not prepared to join with any 23,000 workers. We mark the president Boakai when they want to elect everybody, but nobody going to play game with us and go free. The high can raise 7.1 million overnight. That the 500,000 they say gave the people, the 500,000, now that we are hearing, they make charge and put new on it. So the Boakai need to be aware of this. Let them authority take us to the president. That Blama is a domestic criminal. Blama is a domestic criminal. Look at them, we're 300 human beings. They took 3,000 for them. Blama brought that money with him. And he kept saying 23,000 workers. We are 6,837. So how can Blama fight up? So somebody somewhere, they want to hang the drum on Blama, the Majumo drum, while they beating there and somebody behind Jesse. But I can assure you, that this morning, woman there by the good road, guys. Women are from Broadway, from 9 o'clock. Please meet me to VOA Junction. All the women that live in the Broadway, I will say all the women will come. Anybody fasting that morning, you will get your disgrace for this morning. They will never go in this. You cannot receive document for Timor Workers Union. And you are telling us, Allah Workers Union, take our payment. It is impossible. Because President Boakai will get to know what is happening. In this case, I want to make it clear. I want to urge all of you, women that wear blacking, and men that wear Jew trouser. It's about time to step for right. If you go to the president, you're not going to eat. We can document like a show of the CMS on the case here. Let us not be afraid. It's about time that we step our right. If we President Boakai, if Brom will kill us, Brom will kill us. But we will reach to the president and our right will be giving us.
In reaction, the Secretary General of the United Workers of Liberia, Michael Blama, called on the Liberia National Police to arrest Bannerman if he leads any group of people to the home of the president.
It is my responsibility to receive any money on behalf of the Timor Workers Union of Liberia as a General Secretary of that institution. True. So I'm saying to you that it is my right for government to give the Timor Workers money to us, you and Timor Workers Union, legitimately standing to protect and defend and promote the interests of Timor Workers in Liberia. It is our right. We tell the Minister of Finance, thank you. They are giving us 500,000. We stand for it. And we are waiting for the banner money to pay the workers. Is that true, Jeremy? Yeah. Like a criminal banner man should be afraid to even go in the street to demonstrate. And I can assure you, if he goes there, the police will arrest him for impersonating and stealing money from the workers. 100,000 was given to him in 2021. And he has not paid one single worker in Liberia. If he did, let him go to the police and answer questions. Thank God we have already filed a complaint to the Minister of Justice that he's a criminal, he's impersonating. That file is there. And I'm sure the Justice Minister will not give it permit. If the Justice Minister does that, it means that they will be creating a problem. Because he's a criminal and we have forwarded our report to the Justice Ministry for him to be arrested. I'm Marcus S. Blama. I'm the General Secretary for the Timber Workers Union of Liberia.
The Association of Students with Disabilities at the University of Liberia has applauded the UL's administration for what they termed successful conduct of recent entrance examination. President of the association, Pinkins Boy, during a press conference Wednesday, announced that for the first time, 4 deaf students passed the entrance exam, terming it a major step forward or toward inclusive higher education. The association, through its president, also raised concern over what it described as unfair treatment against the physically challenged man named Warner Dablo, who it said was a candidate of the recent entrance exam.
We, as students with disabilities at the University of Liberia, commend the University of Liberia for their successful conduct of its recent entrance examination, which was held on November the 22nd, 2025. Of particular significance is the fact that for the first time in the history of the University of Liberia, 3 deaf candidates successfully passed the UL entrance. However, access must always never be mistaken for completion of responsibility. Specifically, the association is concerned with Mr. Wonders Dablo, a physically challenged candidate who is wheelchair bound. During the entrance examination, Mr. Dablo was not provided with an official answer sheet. As you may be aware, every candidate must be given an official answer sheet to provide or to write his response to a given question. Instead, examiners issued candidate Dablo a plain sheet of paper on which to write his response or his answers. He was assured by examiner that his answers would be properly transferred or duly marked. The results, later released by the University of Liberia, stated that Mr. Dablo wrongly shaded his answer sheet. We wish to state clearly and unequivocally that Mr. Dablo could not have wrongly shaded when he was never provided an answer sheet. Therefore, the result contained and released by the University of Liberia on candidate Dablo misrepresented the effort he applied.
Perkins Boy, president of the Association of Students with Disabilities at the University of Liberia, they're speaking at a press conference on Wednesday. The Liberia National Police has received a comprehensive peace support operations training curriculum from retired Zimbabwean Police Commissioner Crow Charanji. Speaking Wednesday at the LNP headquarters following the turnover ceremony, Police RG Gregory Common noted that the initiative is expected to strengthen Liberia's security sector.
This is a good gesture from the people, the United Kingdom. It's their taxpayers' money that they have generously supported this initiative that is meant to strengthen peace support, not just for Liberia, but to prepare us, to capacitate us to also provide similar support to those who are in need. And beyond the provision of peace support, it's also meant to prepare us to preserve the peace. Like I mentioned when I shared the vision of our Peace Support Operation Division with our consultant here, that our vision is beyond just supporting and keeping the peace. We are more concerned about reimagining peacekeeping from reactionary to preventive. And why do I say that? And the current mandate is to come in, and order is restored, we keep the peace, we support it, and we sustain it. In this case, we're going to be focusing on how do we prevent conflict and sustain the peace that we enjoy so that we can have no disruption in our forward move.
For his part, retired Commissioner Charji said the initiative is rooted in traditional peacekeeping principles that promote proactive conflict management. He added that the curriculum reflects the evolving nature of modern conflicts, where peace often needs to be established before it can be sustained.
Peacekeeping is an old concept where peace must exist first before it keeps. The world has changed, now so complex. Sometimes you need to create peace where it does not. So it is now called peace support operation. You must help the host countries when you keep the peace after creating. We have complex intrastate conflict. People of the same country fighting each other, very protracted, very complex. Sometimes there are 3, 4, 5 fighting groups. There's no agreement, there is nothing. AU supported by its members. So Liberia has just joined this elite group of African member states that are very keen and ready to support other members and then development. So allow me at this juncture, GIGC, to officially hand over these 2 documents to you and also the stick. I don't know how we do it. First to say, these are the comprehensive terms of the proposed new peace support operations mission. So everything is in there, staff job description, the roles and responsibility functions, this PSOB and all. The structure, staffing list, everything is in there. This for you. Say. The second document says, you can see it's quite bulky. This is the reader, pre-deployment training, individual police.
Retired Zimbabwean Police Commissioner Crow Charanji. Earlier you heard the voice of Police RG Gregory Common. Away from home, Ashos P, one of the world's most popular content creators, is set to receive a Ghanaian passport following his hardly anticipated trip to the West African nation. Ghana was the Minamonte made stop on the U.S. influencers live stream 20-country tour of Africa, which wrapped up on Tuesday. Following Ashos Speed's visit, Ghana's foreign minister announced that his official office had approved a passport for the YouTuber, who he called the wealthy ambassador. And Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program following the steady build-up of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. The U.S. president said a massive Amanda was moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose towards Iran, referring to a large U.S. Navy force. In response, Iran's mission to the UN said Tehran stands ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interest, but if pushed, it wrote in all capitals, it will defend itself and respond like never before. That's how we come to the end of this edition of King's Newsroom. But before we leave, a quick reminder of stories we followed in the headlines. Ministry of State accelerates lead sonar investigation. Sources named Ministry of Information and others in ongoing probe. Finance and Development Planning Minister blasts Liberians for critiquing government's announced improvement of the economy. Minister Augustin Gafuan says the government will not buy physical bread and butter for citizens to prove that it is working. You also heard in the news several persons affected by leprosy in prison in Banga and fined $100 each over 250 acres of land dispute between Swakoko Leprosy Camp and administrator of Clark's Village. Away from home, Ashos P, one of the world's most popular content creators, is set to receive a Ghanaian passport following his hardly anticipated trip to the West African nation. Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program following the steady build-up of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. Many thanks to our reporters, correspondents, and all those who help in making this edition of King's Newsroom a success. Sam Andrews brought you the news bulletin. Nathan Tokpa sat at control and handled the technical aspect of this edition. On behalf of the team, I'm Sherman Dale. I presented. Thanks for listening and watching.